Hi, I'm Blythe Stephens of A Blythe Coach, dance education and coaching to move through life with balance, grace, and power. And so many of my students this year have goals in the area of flexibility or goals which will be served by greater flexibility. In other words, skills that if they can increase flexibility in specific areas will be easier to execute and will be more efficient, more effective, more fun, more successful, with a bit more flexibility. And of course, also strength and coordination. And in ballet, we're always working on all of those things simultaneously, getting more strong, getting more flexible, getting better coordination and musicality and artistry, things that we love. Yeah, so I thought it might be helpful for current students and also people who have similar goals if we break down some of the stages on the way to the splits. So we want to get our perfect 180-degree splits. How do we take steps towards that direction? It is a long process. I want to say that this is not going to happen overnight or super quick, although with a concerted effort over time, you can see great results. If you have them, something resembling a yoga block can be really helpful at this stage. You may also want to use a folded blanket or towel, or you could use perhaps a book or a cushion of another kind, a pillow, a bolster, something like that, to make these steps along the way more comfortable so that you can spend a bit more time there, work them slowly, safely, and relatively comfortably so that you can see those results and keep going. Yes, so grab your block or maybe a yoga mat. We'll come to the floor and start with some warm-ups. Now, even more warm-up would be better. Ideally, you would jump around or do some jumping jacks or do sort of a whole little calisthenic regimen, go for a run, whatever it is that for you that gets you nice and warmed up throughout your whole body before you start stretching and trying to create greater flexibility. So do that and come back and meet me on the floor or on your mat. Oh, I'm not using any music with today's splits practice. However, it is a lot more fun to practice with music. And so I will be recommending a playlist on my Spotify channel to accompany this stretching if you'd like a little music to go along to. Just didn't want to run into any copyright issues with this practice, give you the basic steps, and then you can practice it along with some beautiful or exciting or motivating music of your choice, or check out my recommendations. All right, so you need enough space around you, obviously, to do a big stretch with the arms as well as with the legs, and to lunge. And that's where we're going to start our practice because the splits is your hips, lower back, and thighs are all really involved. We want to make sure those places in particular are nice and warm. And you can go ahead and start using a mat or your blocks here as you like. Maybe because of the geometry of your particular body, it's a little more comfortable, or for the wrists to support an all fours position with the blocks, or you can just set them aside and have them at the ready in the future. And you can check out, I have a whole other video on cat-cow movements. Super great for warming up the whole core and spine, the hips, even the shoulders for dance and for the rest of athletics and yoga. But here we'll just do a few, planting the hands down and the tops of the feet down into the floor and flexing and extending the spine. Now here, as well as in our stretching, as we go deeper, it will serve us to coordinate the movement with the breath. So I will inhale as the head and the tail expand up to the ceiling and allow the mid-back, belly, and belly button to fall. And then exhale as I lift the belly up towards the spine, through the middle back, and the head and the tail fall down. Great, and you can do as many of those as you like to get warmed up right in the middle. Another great, very quick and effective warm up that works the core is our plank pose. So let's do maybe 45 seconds or a minute of whatever variation of plank you like. I have, of course, another video that's called Planking Pleasures. That's all about different variations of plank to suit your mood and your physical state that particular day and where you are along the path of plank. But to just start out really simple, I'm going to take a high plank. You could take a low plank as you like, and we'll just breathe here. So this is a place where a bit of music can be really nice, or grounding down through the hands and the big toe and little toe joints, lifting up through the belly, making sure we're not sagging down in the hips, even inflating between the shoulder blades. And breathing. There are certainly a lot more fun and entertaining versions of plank that can make this more enjoyable, more challenging, just different. But for today, we'll just take a real simple plank. And then slowly release the knees back down onto the floor. Just for a second, come to child's pose. Okay, now we're really going to get started on those lunges and moving through the hips and sort of mobilizing through the pelvis, which is going to free up that whole area for our splits. So we'll start with a lunge with the right leg forward. If you need some cushion behind that knee in the back, by all means do so. You got to watch out for those tender knees. And if you have any physical concerns whatsoever, it's always best to check with your doctor, your physical therapist, a medical professional to help support you along the way to make sure you're moving safely and sustainably. But let's step that right foot forward into a lunge. And I'm going to make a more or less 90-degree angle in the front and back. Doesn't have to be exactly like that, but it's a good starting place, just like building a house with 90-degree angles tends to foster stability. And we can draw those muscles in towards the bones, draw the bones into the center of the body energetically, and that will help stabilize this shape. So I'm drawing in through my core. I'm drawing the thigh bones in towards the pelvis. Everything's sort of hugging and squeezing in towards the middle. And then here's where a block or two could be nice. So I'll take the blocks in the hand, place them down onto the floor, and then sink down a little bit deeper. So I do end up with a bit of a smaller angle in the front knee and of course a bigger one in the back knee. And if you want to adjust those angles at any time, feels better for you, please do that. But I'm lifting up through the belly and the head, letting the shoulders relax. I can also try some different settings of these blocks. That can be really nice. And then coming back through center, I can continue to use those blocks or just set my hands on the floor. And I'm just softly stretching the back of the hamstring and sort of drawing that thigh bone back into the pelvis, squaring shoulders and hips. And then I'm going to flow through this a few more times to open up, loosen up in this area. So through the 90 degrees if I want, lifting up through the center. If you want, you can also send the arms up and wide as you come forward rather than using those blocks, and then set them down or support yourself as you see fit as you come back. In fact, for me, I like to sink back this far, but feel it out. See what makes sense for you in that back position. And the forward shape and the back shape, and however many times you want. We're going to go for fairly even on both sides, so not much more time on one side than the other. Cool, let's even that out. And switch to the other side, cushioning the knee as you like, finding 90 degrees more or less in those knee joints. And then supporting the stretch. So we're really never just flopping, dumping, collapsing into these stretches. Rather, we're supporting them with the strength of the muscles. So we're being really careful, aware, mindful of what we're doing with our body. Easing in, strengthening the body, that what we're doing is a safe process. We're not going to be reckless. That will tend to inhibit our range of motion. The body will seize up, of course, as a protective mechanism. What you're doing is not safe. It will attempt to protect itself. So instead, we're going to go through slowly, carefully, and gently, and become aware and increasingly aware of what is a good, healthy, productive stretching discomfort, because stretching, of course, is not going to be a super comfy, cozy experience. There is a challenge to it. There is an expansion of our capabilities, but there's a big difference between that slight discomfort, which passes once we're done with the stretch and leaves us feeling even better, to a injurious, too quick, too intense, sudden stabbing. Words like this are used to describe that sort of pain. That is not productive. That is not going to support us becoming more flexible and more capable. Okay, so that was some beautiful rocking forward into a big crescent lunge and back into, sometimes we call this a runner's lunge. Yes. And I've already done some warming up before this. Some jumping jacks and lunges and squats and things can be nice to warm up all these areas, as well as some push-ups and some tricep dips in the upper body. So I'm feeling pretty overall warmed up and ready for some next steps of splits. Maybe this initial crescent lunge and runner's lunge is exactly where you're at, and a few repetitions of that, going really slowly and mindfully, maybe taking a little bit more time in each position, is just perfect for you. Awesome. Do that for as long as you like, and then you may also want to balance it out with some butterfly stretches, letting the hips open up and externally rotate, some reclining internal and external rotation in the hips. And I've got a lot of other fun hip stretches as well on the channel, even an introduction to hip stretches, which can be a perfect complement to this practice as well. Awesome. And then, of course, we have our side splits, which are a whole other fun time. We'll get to that in a minute. But if that's your starting place, then do it and move on, or when you're ready, or never. We're adult dancers, so we get to choose really what skills we want, how flexible we want to be. It's totally your body and your practice. So, but let's go a little bit deeper. Let's say I did used to have my splits, but now it's been a while and I'm getting it back. How can I ease back into that reasonably? Love to use the blocks here to support us. So we'll take that lunge again with the right leg forward, and then really ground down either into the blocks or into the floor, or, like I said, another angle of the blocks could be even better for you. You have to experiment. And then we will send the front leg forward and the back leg back. So the weight is more so supported in the arms than with the legs, and I'm pushing, muscularly pressing and sliding the forward leg forward and the back leg back. This is parallel. My legs are still parallel. I'm not turning them out yet. And so this is a little bit closer to like a gymnastic split. And I find that both versions, both parallel and a turned out version, help my flexibility and my performance in different ways. So I encourage you to also try out both and try to develop both. If you're a ballet dancer, see how it feels to try to do the splits in a parallel position. And if you are a gymnast or are used to doing it parallel, see how it affects you if you do this in a turned out position. Okay, and then you hang out, which is why I'm chatting away. You hang out, by which I don't mean just hang passively, but you press and support with the arms and then allow the muscles to slowly relax. Maybe they won't relax a lot, but over time they'll relax a bit more. And if you find you want to hang out here longer, but it's not really comfortable, that's when you can actually set a block underneath, or 2 blocks, or whatever support you need underneath you, and then just be there at that height. That can be really good. Or maybe over time you do find that you're on the ground. It's been a while for me, so we're probably not going to get there today, and that's okay. I like to be able to realistically show what it looks like to return to this shape after not practicing it as much. But if I do turn out, then this is my chocolate side, as they say in German, my Schokoladenseite, and so I can get into my full splits once I turn out. If you're just bumping right down in there, no problem. Keep it active, keep it mindful, but then you can also move through the upper body to adjust your stretch. Okay, say you're totally not there, but you want to hang out longer, but you don't want to put a block under you. You can also practice with a one leg bent. So mindfully, carefully, either bending that front leg under you, like so. This is like a half pigeon in yoga. And then I can sort of move through the upper body and adjust that stretch. Or I can do a jazzy split where my front leg is extended and the back is in like a back attitude or a bent shape there. Mindful of the knee, supporting using my muscles. But I can sort of play and adjust and explore my range of motion there. Cool. So that's a lot of fun options depending on where you're at. And then, of course, we'll take it to the other side, which is going to be, by the way, maybe similar, maybe totally different from the first side of our split. So, yes, I got my healthy lunge. Happy 90 degrees, feeling the support of the muscles, drawing in and surrounding the joints and all those areas as I move into the stretch. And then sinking. The beauty of doing lunges first is we know the thighs were already in pretty close to a split shape. All we have to do is add the lower leg. We can do this in time, maybe a lot of time, but as far as I'm concerned, we've got the rest of our lives here. In time, it will improve if we practice consistently. What does that mean? That means daily or multiple times a week. Certainly after or in the middle when you have a stretching break of each dance class. Certainly every time we're nice and warm. If we've done another kind of a workout or, yes, either danced or done aerobics or done another sport. Ideally daily. Just once a week or less, you may see some progress, but it's going to be real slow. More frequently, don't overdo it. You can do it a minimum amount. Multiple days a week, you'll see pretty fast progress in most cases. Okay, yes, so I'm supporting myself in the hands, pressing into the fingertips, pressing into the palm of the hand, making sure my wrists are happy. Sending the front leg forward and the back leg back, feeling sort of floaty and buoyant and relaxed as I can through the head, shoulders, and neck. It doesn't really serve me to have too much tension in those places. And then slowly, slowly breathing with beautiful music on. I find that I can go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. Again, not as deeply on this side as on the other side. I've got a little bit of tension, a little bit of tightness on this side and the hip that I don't have on the other side. And my body is different in all kinds of ways from one side to the other, knees, ankles, everything's. It looks fairly symmetrical from the outside, but the experience is very different from one side to the other. Yes. Okay, so then I can take my block underneath, Ooh, or 2 blocks. What makes it? Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, yes. And play there. That's really nice. Actually, it shifts the stretch. So I'm still stretching, but I'm not feeling freaked out. Or 1 block, or bend one leg or the other leg. So let's try the front leg, hugging those muscles in to support this, not falling down, but trying this pigeon, half pigeon. Got a whole hip stretch sequence around pigeon pose that you can also explore. Or we can take our jazz splits. I call it jazz splits because in jazz, when you slide from standing down onto the floor, I remember this glorious lean to the side, which really opens up through the hips, and then you have this back leg and a beautiful attitude. So it looks all splitty, but you're really sort of falling onto the hip and not doing quite a full split. And ooh, that kind of massages the hip in a kind of different, exciting way. Yes. Right. So exploring with those, or continuing or returning to using the blocks or hands flat on the ground, and then maybe eventually trying the turned out version as well. I can get a little deeper by externally rotating my hips. And then patience, patience, and time are our final ingredient, and breath, I guess. And then leaning out. Voila! Afterwards, you can use your hands to help the knees close. I encourage a little wiggly, jiggly, squiggly of the muscles. Let everything kind of relax again. Taking a forward fold to release again in the lower back and hamstrings evenly on both sides. The knees do not have to be straight. In fact, they should probably have a gentle bend to them as we stretch forward into our fold. And as with this forward fold and our forward fold in our butterfly or Supta Baddha Konasana position here, with our side splits, a lot of the action and the stretch in the shape is coming from a tip of the pelvis. So to prepare for our center splits, we may wish to take a block underneath the seat or 2 blocks side by side, depending on the abundance in your seat. And this helps with a forward fold or with a forward fold in our straddle position or our ala second splits to tip the hips forward and to feel a little bit supported. So for some people, that is the best starting point. This split is another one that I've lost over time and lack of practice, but as a child, I did have it, but it took me years to get. And I remember that day that I was first able to go fully into my straddle and roll through to where my legs were in the back. That was the ultimate moment for me. But just because you had it doesn't mean it lasts forever. So if you want to build this again, blocks might be nice. You're sitting on them, or you can lean on them here, floating the chest up. I find is a really helpful step for me to rotate the pelvis and focus on that rather than bending forward in the back and just stretching through, I don't know, the mid back and shoulders. I'm getting no stretch whatsoever in my inner thighs or my hips or any of the real active center split areas. You can point the feet or flex them. I find those have different effects, and it can be good to experiment with both. And here also we breathe. It can be helpful, just as in the other stretches, to sort of buoy ourselves up, float up on the inhale, elongate through our spine, and then send ourselves a little bit more deeply into the stretch with the exhale. Taking our time, practicing, having patience. Yeah, certainly awesome to also do side stretches in this shape, whether it's more of a V shape or wider, is immaterial. They're all beneficial, as well as twists. And the more time you spend in these shapes, the more comfortable you'll get experimenting with them and figuring out what is it that really does make your individual body feel better, become more able to move through greater range of motion. It's a real personal exploration. And I'm so happy to be here to support you in the journey. So that was some initial steps towards sort of moving through warm-ups and lunges to warm up the hips and the whole body, as well as some core work, make sure we're supporting all of our stretches with the strength of our center, and then moving towards step by step our full expression of the splits. Yeah, so I hope that you find that really beneficial to your dance practice or your other athletics. And come stretch with me some more and dance some more in the future. Thanks for joining me for the banana splits or delicious stages along the way to greater flexibility and our full splits in yoga. I'll be pursuing this topic as well. It's called Hanumanasana. And so we'll be diving into that in the near future also. But if you enjoyed this and would like to see similar videos in the future or have other things you'd like to see, please let me know. Go ahead and like the video down below. Give me a comment, let me know what you'd like to see more of, and subscribe to my channel to make sure that you see all my future offerings. Even better, you should join my weekly email newsletter, which will bring joy and resources directly to your inbox at my website, ablythecoach.com. That's ABLYTHECOACH.com. Thanks so much for being here. See you next time.